One of the biggest challenges modern actors face is how to work with unfamiliar props or ritualized behavior from centuries long past, while still maintaining the sense of the character that they've been working on, reinforcing and not losing a focus on that character's attitudes and desires. Because when the relationship gets lost in the delicate manipulation of foreign objects, then we are no longer fulfilling the playwright's vision. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Mooney with the Timothy Mooney Repertory Theater, and today I'm continuing to work through my book, Acting at the Speed of Life, Conquering Theatrical Style. At this point, you should be able to find the introductions and the first 3 chapters of this book here on my YouTube and my Breakneck Shakespeare websites. But for all I know, by the time you're watching this, I might well have the entire book posted there. Maybe you should subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you're watching this at breakneckshakespeare.com, you'll find all kinds of goodies, including full performances of at least 7 of my one-man plays that you can share with your friends or your classes at a low, low price, including the full play, Shakespeare's History's 10 Epic Plays at a Breakneck Pace, for free. Today, we're going to explore ritualized gesture in Chapter 4, Perfect It and Forget It. A professor meets me for breakfast as I pass through town. We chat briefly about Molière and my tour, as well as some of her challenges directing a classical play. Once we hit this topic, she has an urgent question. When the people back then greeted each other and bowed, how did they execute those bows? What kind of choreography went into them? My response? Which week? Attempting to recreate a bow or any ritual that might be impacted by fashion and practice with photographic realism would be the equivalent of someone from 300 years in the future attempting to recreate with exactitude a touchdown celebration dance. Consider the personal and social influences that might impact a bow that 2 men might perform upon greeting each other. Here's 10 of them off the top of my head. 1. The fashion of this particular era, this year, or even this week. The relative status of the 2, the lesser bowing the more deeply. Each man's opinion about the relative status of the 2. The relative modesty or arrogance or masculinity of either party. The ongoing changes in the relationship. The events of the day and the activity that either needs to go get done. The mood of the moment, perceived or actual slights one may have performed toward the other, the plans or strategies that either may carry towards influencing the other through flattery or other means, or any physical impairment that either man may have. I think back to a recent performance as Alceste in the Misanthrope, Act 1, Scene 2, who has been approached by Orant, a terrible and obvious flatterer and sycophant who kisses up to Alceste with some thinly disguised end in mind. Alceste, who is, after all, a misanthrope, is immediately suspicious, and as Orant fawns with a series of 3 bows, each broader and fuller than the one preceding it, Alceste performs the most perfunctory, minimal bow that he can possibly get away with without overt insult. On each of the bows, Orant makes a grand flourish, sweeping his arms in front of his face before extending them palms up out to either side, extending a foot forward, and bending almost perpendicularly from the waist, dropping his eyes to look at the ground, first saying, "I cannot be the first here on that score. The world must beat a path to your front door." To which Alceste replies, "Sir." In response, Alceste backs away a step, which leaves a foot extended forward, a reflection of Orant's extended foot, but much more passively executed, while bending slightly from the waist, perhaps 20 degrees forward, extending his arms forward with palms up. Orant resumes his flourishes, eventually saying, "There shines light no brighter in our nation than your great merit by my estimation." Sir. On his second bow, Alceste places a hand upon his heart, backing up yet another step, while this time his bow is a much slighter nod, not from the waist, but from the shoulders, inclining only the head, perhaps 45 degrees forward. Orant reinvigorates his sweeping bow with even greater flattery. "No, sir, none here match your noted worth, here in this state, perhaps upon this earth." Sir. With the third bow, Alceste signals Orant to stop, raising his hands, palms outward, while taking yet another step backward, dipping his head forward only as an afterthought, ending with hands clasped in front of his waist. No one bow would communicate these evolving complexities or the personalities of the relationship. Orant's very inclination to repeat the bow drives Alceste into suspicion and resistance, changing the fullness, the degree, and the very nature of his bow in each response. And indeed, there are bowers who would take this even further over the top. A more foppish character would extend the flourishes by holding lace handkerchiefs and rotating the hands from the wrists or the elbows and waggling the head side to side before extending the arms widely and plunging into a deep bow with the leg extended excruciatingly far forward. The ending position might find the bower practically kissing his own knee and then straining to get back up. Actors and directors like to get caught up in the stuff that represents the period to them. And so they fixate on the elaborate language of bowing, of handling fans or snuff boxes, or they strap on swords which clank against the furniture throughout the course of the play. I admire the commitment to research and accuracy, and I encourage it wholeheartedly. Research it, learn it, execute it, perfect it, and then forget it. If your head is caught up in the details of execution of the activity, then you have abandoned your character's thought process, because these activities were of second nature to them. And while you're furiously focused on something that would have been second nature, your character can no longer be in the moment of the action. There are books with detailed descriptions of bows, many based on fencing positions and ballet attitudes. Classes in ballet give the actor an excellent discipline, organizing muscles into positions and gestures that were fashionable 300 years ago. Keep in mind that any individual source which you may find is generally a snapshot of what was performed in that day. The bows of 1667 may well be different from those of 1666. Independent of this, we have little way of knowing how wistfully sentimental a given character might have been, pining for the old days when people knew how to bow. And learning the resulting end position of any activity may be as effective as learning a dance by following footprints laid out on the floor. The thing lives and thrives in the psychological action, not in the details of the position. Playwrights of the 16th and 17th centuries were not writing about fans or foils. The play itself is always about the relationship between the people. When the relationship gets lost in the delicate manipulation of foreign objects, then we are no longer fulfilling the playwright's vision. Don't get lost in the accoutrement. Get inside the action, underlying the extra stuff. The one thing they were not likely thinking was, how am I supposed to execute this bow? Unless, perhaps, it was Monsieur Jourdain from the Bourgeois Gentleman, a clueless imitator of fashion. Take a good look at the reason the character might have for manipulating a fan or brandishing a sword, and never do anything without a reason. If the answer to the question is because that's how they did things back then, dig deeper. Imagine we have time traveled forward 300 years into the future and are watching the performance of a historical play first produced in the long-forgotten 21st century. Actors who have never owned the collection of toys that we carry with us spend their time manipulating cell phones, smartphones, wallets, purses, cigarettes, pill bottles, Game Boys, guns, car keys, and pens. They take classes on the proper manipulation of eyeglasses and the secret messages spoken through the eyeglasses and sunglasses of the prehistoric time before all eyes were surgically corrected at birth or genetically pre-programmed. And the actors eat it up, working and reworking their performances to master the manipulation of all these foreign devices. And they overlook what the plays were originally about. How many contemporary plays do we have that are actually about the use and manipulation of cell phones, purses, or pens? These are merely tools that we use to pursue things that we really want. In this same way, fans, swords, handkerchiefs, and snuff boxes were merely tools that the 17th century character used to get the things that he or she really wanted. And those things are the same things that we want today. Love, power, attention, affection, acknowledgement, money, security, superiority. The tools change, the action remains the same, which is why some plays mean just as much to us today as they did 400 years ago. And that's chapter 4. I love reading your comments, and I generally respond to all of them. What kind of gestures do you do naturally, instinctively, without even thinking about it, that might seem strange or mysterious to people of another time? Let me know below. And if you'd like to help a starving actor out, please hit like and subscribe to this channel. I'll be back soon with chapter 5, titled The Link Between Sight and Sound. Again, if you just can't wait for the next chapter, you can get your copy of Acting at the Speed of Life, Conquering Theatrical Style, and read your way ahead. Once again, I'm Tim Mooney with the Timothy Mooney Repertory Theater, and I'm almost constantly on the road with my one-man plays, such as Breakneck Hamlet, Breakneck Comedy of Errors, or my newest one, Breakneck Romeo and Juliet, all of which are now available on breakneckshakespeare.com. Drop me a note if you'd like an event at your school or organization. Thanks for joining me. See you on the stage.